One. Sorry, everybody. Probably not my best moment. You know what? I've been doing a lot of crying lately.
Boy, me too.
I've been crying a lot lately. Sandy Wendy, good to see you. Ann from Mass, how are you? I appreciate the congratulations. Thank you. Jane Aldrich, how are you? Susan, good to have you here. Folks, this is a really heavy day, and it shouldn't be, right? It should just be a day of celebration, but it's one of those things. Hey, Chickacherry Cola, good to see you. Good to have you. Lena Rose, good to have you. Kristen Melinda, what's happening? Sandy Wendy's, Tony's Hooter. I'm glad that you're here. It's bittersweet every time the 27th rolls around, because I'm always so happy that I don't have to go steal something today to come up with enough money to put a needle in my arm. I don't have any track marks at it. I don't deal with any of that stuff. And I'm in the best place I've been in a mindset of my life. But I'm going to get a lot of congratulations today, and I've had a lot already, and I really appreciate it. Lisa Trimple, good to see you. But the person that's responsible for it isn't here to celebrate with me, and it's tough. You are not blocked, Trixie. Here from Relatable Reese, just wanted to say congratulations. Thank you. You know what? That's a very kind thing to say. I really appreciate that. Pepper, Tommy, Dale said, hold on, let me get this here real quick. Hey, thank you very much. Can't stay. Gotta get on the road, but I wanted to say yes. And I miss you. Well, thank you, Hayes. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. Pepper Bestway says, Tommy, Dale said he is going to be back. Don't know when. Tell everyone. So he's doing better. Do me a favor, please. Tell us where Dale is at. Can you give us the hospital he's at? I have had so many people reach out to me today that would like to send him, get well cards. People said flowers. It's a lot of people that are really, really wanting to reach out to him. If you could tell us what hospital he's at, that would be fantastic. It really would. Thank you so much, Reese. I appreciate that. I really do. Barbara, good to see you. And you know what? Let me highlight this because I know you got to leave, but thank you. I appreciate it. Stay safe, please. The best is yet to come. You know what? I used to say that a lot. I got out of it, and that's kind of sad. But the best is yet to come. Jeremy Fowler, how are you? Nikki McCullough, good to see you. You know what, people? I had such a day today. I said to Johnny Scoville right before we left the United States of America, I said, when I get to Ecuador, I am never going to answer another comment. And I'm going to do this as a way to sort of isolate myself and protect myself from some of the hate and the stuff out there. I've answered more comments since getting here than I ever have. And you know what? I should be. It's the right thing to do. Noel, good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. And I had some of the most emotional comments that people have left for me that, it's just been one of those days that, anybody that's been sober for a while, when your sobriety date comes around, you think about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm going to say some things today that may not sound like, yeah, I'll ask his wife and him tomorrow when I see him, and I'll let you know. Yeah, please do. We'd definitely like to know where he's at. So if you could tell us the hospital, we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. The boat does this all the time. If somebody's in there, a lot of times people will go out and see him. When Steve Molesky was in the hospital, so many people went and saw him. He was a great man. He didn't win his battle, but hopefully Dale will. So we'll expect you tomorrow night for that. That would mean the world to me. Nikki says, we love you, Tommy. No hate here. I appreciate that. And I'm going to lead with love always. But every once in a while, I might say things that X-Mod Lindy, good to see you. I'm so bloody proud of you. I can't even put it into words. Why, thank you. And you know what? You understand, right? You beat the same drug. So that means a lot. It does. It's a hell of a drug to beat. But on days like this, you look back at a lot of the things that have happened. And I talked, my brother and I started talking today, and I talked about prison a lot. And I spent way more time talking about the years I was on dope as opposed to the last 10 years that I haven't been. And I guess that happens for some people, maybe not for everybody, but it certainly happens a lot for me. And I don't ever want to come across as anything but love from this point on. But I had somebody say to me, and they said it with love, by the way, truthfully. There was no hate whatsoever in what was said. But this person said, I'm wildly impressed at the fact that you and Reese have made peace. And they said it. Honestly, it was nice. But they said, I'm not sure if I would ever be able to, to have done that. And there's a lot I'm not going to share with people, right? Because I've learned that there are things that probably just should not be shared. I've shared a lot of my life. And there are going to be some things that I'm not going to share. But I touched last night on this a little bit. I have found out a lot because I almost allowed myself to be canceled, because I walked away, because I didn't watch any of the videos or the things that people said. There was a lot that got lost in translation. But I'm going to say this so that it makes sense to a lot of people. For those that think that... let me reword this because that isn't going to sound right either. There are people that wanted to take me out, right? For real. There are people that wanted me off the internet. There are people that wanted me gone. Hey, V-Bombs, good to have you from New York.
That want you off the earth.
Yeah, there are people, honestly, that would like me to take my own life, but they sure as hell want me off the internet. And my girl heard a lot of things. My girlfriend at the time heard a lot of things about me from people that she believed knew me really well. And I'm not going to point fingers, and I'm not going to say names, and I'm not going to do any of that. But we've talked about trimming, out people in your life. I have said to a lot of people, hey man, if you left, everyone's welcome to come back, right? It's love. Everyone is welcome to come back here. I mean that. There's one name you're never going to see on this boat. I'm not going to say who that person is, but I can assure you, you will never see that name on this boat. And if I were the kind of person to do this, I could explain that long con video really easily. And the blame probably wouldn't lay anywhere where you think that it would. But it made it a hell of a lot easier for me to be forgiving. Tommy Bird, good to see you. Nikki McCullough, the lifeboat has been a great support for me in my recovery. Your words are such an inspiration. Thank you. Had a couple people leave comments today that said, the reason that you have so much hate is because you run. Hold on one second. Hello. Hey, how are you? I'm live. It was good. I am live right now on the Love Boat. I'll do that. My 10-year anniversary today. Thanks. I love you more than anything. All right, bye. The only reason I picked that up, people, I don't do that, but that was my son, and I'm never not going to take a call from my kid. You never know what's going on. But it's it made it easier to understand a lot of the things that have happened. And I'm going to leave it at that. But so there were some people that said the reason that there is so much hate that gets generated at me. Will I ever finish my book? Yeah, I will. It's going to be a lot easier to do that. One of the reasons that that I didn't is because there was a hell of a lot of Reese in that book. Just to keep it real, there was a lot of stuff about, it got to the sort of that phase of my life, and she was, we were talking, this was going to be my wife. So once that stopped, well, I sure as hell needed to make some changes in that. And then I thought, you know what? Half the world hates me. Why would I put this book out? Lumen, good to see you. It just would have been bad. And but yeah, I do think that's coming. Kellyanne, good to see you. The Love Boat, that's right. Brock Bandy, man, it's always great to have you here. But they said the reason that there's so much hate on you is because you run a sobriety channel and you're not sober. And there are some things, I consider myself a Christian, right? Doesn't mean I'm a good person, by the way. Those two things don't equate. You understand that, right? But I do consider myself a Christian. I have a problem with Christians, which is probably not a nice thing to say. But I think one of the biggest problems with Christianity is Christians, because once they find God, they like to make it known that everybody else is kind of a piece of shit. And they're a believer and everybody else sucks. And that's a pretty rough mindset, right? That's a pretty rough mindset. And what they were saying is the reason that there's so much hate is because I am wasted all of the time. I relapsed in the last 10 years. I was open and honest about it. My relapse wasn't heroin. I took Valium and I drank beer on top of the Valium. It was one night, and people say, hey, it's no big deal. I did it because I was in pain and I wanted that pain to go away. And it was spiritual pain. It was emotional pain. Now, any way you look at it, that's a relapse. That's any way you look at it. Fortunately, I didn't let it continue to run. But there are a lot of people who believe that I'm sticking needles in my arms every day. And I was going to comment back to this person. Instead, I blocked them. Right? Because there's no point in trying to teach a fish to ride a bike, right? It'll piss off the fish and it's just going to waste my time. But the logic in that is kind of flawed, and I'll tell you why. Because they started hacking on me about 3 weeks into having this channel, right? But I will tell you, I'm a flawed human being, right? And I absolutely relapsed. I relapsed on Valium and I drank hard. I didn't have a beer or two. I drank hard. I did everything I could to not feel. And if you're taking a substance to not feel, you relapsed. However, I'm celebrating my 10-year anniversary today anyway, because what I didn't do was stick a needle in my arm, and what I didn't do was a mother-loving opiate. And I've had some really horrific things happen in terms of pain, and I am going to, still a Rolling Stone, good to see you. Life of Dennis Brace, how are you? I am, this is the most important thing that I can talk about here, in my opinion. One of the things that I feel really strongly about in the whole sobriety thing. And by the way, they say you put yourself out here as a sobriety master. Oh man, if you think I'm a sobriety master, then you haven't watched much of these shows, right? You haven't. I'm no sobriety master. I'm not. I read a hell of a lot of books by a lot of people who were sobriety masters. And fortunately, I have the ability to remember things in ways that most people don't, which is a good thing, right? I have a memory that's pretty good. Rosemary Vecchio, I'm proud of you. I hope if that doesn't make sense, maybe I'll explain it sometime, but I'm really, really proud of you. That's right, V-Bombs. Christians aren't perfect, just forgiven. And that is exactly how I feel. And someone reached out. back in the day, Q said to me, do you read the Bible much? And I've said, I don't know what Q's religion is. I really don't, which is fascinating. He talked about God all the time. But I would say to him, so you're a Christian? He'd go, well, I've read all of them, every book out there. And I did too. But I was always pretty open and honest about what I believed. But he said to me, you could do great things. And I said, yeah, I'm kind of a piece of shit. And he said, God didn't pick people in the Bible who were real winners and then use them to do great things. And I'm not preaching here, people, I promise. But I'm not a great person. I'm not. And I got news for you. I'm never going to be. I'm going to fight like hell to be the best person I can be for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, I spent a lot of time being a jackass. Right? I'm proud as hell of the last 10 years. And if anything that I do on the lifeboat ever catches on, what I want to catch on more than anything, listen carefully. If a person goes 2 years, right, and does nothing, right, their drug of choice is alcohol, and they don't have a sip for 2 years, that's 2 sets of 365 days, right? They're into 30 something. And then they relapse and they go, it's over, right? I blew it. I got no sobriety. I have no sobriety. Those 2 years are done. Bullshit. I'm sorry. That doesn't make a lick of sense. And if it does, then there's something wrong with you. Honestly, I'm not being disrespectful. Think logically for a second. So you're going to waste 700 plus days, right, of making it. 700 days of getting through one of the most difficult struggles in life. They say recovery isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. It's not. Marathons are run in 4 hours, right? It's not a sprint, and it sure as hell isn't a marathon. You know what it is? Huh? It's the rest of your life. Recovery is a daily struggle against yourself. That's hard. But if you go 5 years of sobriety and spend 2 days relapsing and then go, what have I done? You still have 5 years of recovery. Don't piss away everything you've done. That's like going into a casino, right? With 10 grand in your pocket and putting down a $5 bet, right? Losing the first 5 and throwing the rest of your money on the table and walking out of the casino, right? You literally are throwing away sobriety. You're throwing away success. I'm not going to let that happen. Not here. Hello, just in, and we'll catch the replay tomorrow. Reese too. But Tommy, I wanted to say huge congrats on your anniversary. God bless you. Bumblebee, thank you. What a kind thing. And you know something? Just take this in the, there's something fantastic about watching people in my audience say nice things about Reese, because I'm sure that I caused a lot of people to hate her. There's one particular guy out there who is a troll, and you know exactly who I'm talking about. And you know what? I don't want anybody here hating him. He used to be on the lifeboat, by the way. He used to be the biggest fan I had. I promise you. Probably still is. It's just that now he does things a little differently. One of the other things, thank you. $1 for every year. Well, thank you, Johnny Scoville. I appreciate it.
I thought that was fitting.
It is fitting. Thank you. Barbara says, we are so lucky God provides infinite keys to fit infinite locks. Wow. We just got to find our key. Wow, that's a cool thing to say. Man, what a cool thing to say. But it's amazing that the individuals who hate me and the reasons that they do, I don't want anybody hating that person. I really don't. And I'll tell you something. You want to talk about a vile human being? He was in the chat once, and someone said, "Hey, I'm going to say a prayer for you." He said, "Don't waste your time. There's no effing God," is what he wrote. And you know something? If you don't believe in God, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to say to somebody, "Thank you. Appreciate the prayers." If you feel the need to insult someone who says, "I'm pulling for you," your soul is dark, real dark. Right? And I say, I'm doing everything within my power to never hate anyone ever again. You know, my one real problem with that, for real, my life got saved by a guy whose skin color doesn't match mine. And I hate racist people. God forgive me, I do. I hate them. So I'm praying about it. I really am. I'm praying about it. But I hate them. God forgive me. And I know it's ignorance. It's a learned behavior, right? It's a learned behavior. My mother and my sister were educators. And for a long time, they owned daycare centers. And I had never seen a racist child in my life. I watched kids of every single nationality and of every single race play with each other. And you know what? Literally, they don't know their color. I used to tell this story, and I've told it on the boat, so I'm sorry if you've been here a long time, you're stuck and you're going to have to listen to it again. But we lived in the sticks growing up in Vermont, and they used to do a thing called the Fresh Air Program. And the Fresh Air Program took people from concrete jungles, like inner cities, right, that don't get a chance to see mountains and trees and fireflies and things like that. And a family would adopt an inner city kid for about a month, right, in the summertime, and they would get to see what the country looked like. And Vermont was a great place for that. And we took a girl from the Bronx, correct?
Yep.
Or was it Brooklyn? Bronx.
Bronx.
And her name was Alicia, right? We're still in contact with her, by the way, to this day. She's a mother.
She was the first person who called me when Dad died.
Yeah, when my father passed away, it was the first person to reach out to my brother. Her name was Alicia. We called her Lisi. And I remember this like it was yesterday. We were standing in the kitchen, and my mom was having a conversation, and the president at the time, right, was Jimmy Carter. And I don't remember why the president got brought up, but she said, the only president I like was Abraham Lincoln. And my mother probably knew why, right? So, but she said, why is that? And he said, because he freed the black people. He freed the slaves. And my mother said, he did. He did a lot for white people too. She said, yeah, but I hate white people. And my mother said, you hate white people? And this little black girl said, yeah, I do. And my mother said, I'm white. And the look of shock on her face. Hate had been put into this girl's mind by somebody, but she didn't realize that we were any different. She just knew she hated white people. And my mom had talked to her. It was beautiful. But my dad came home every single night at 5:30, right? Till I was about 18, my dad worked at an office, and he would come home like this, right? 5:30 every day. So she called him Uncle Moose. So when he came walking through the door, at least he looked at my mom and went, Uncle Moose white too? Is he white too? Hatred has to be taught. Seriously, nobody's born with it. Racism has to be taught. And I understand if some parent screws up a kid up, but you stop getting a pass at about the age of 18. For real, I'm not giving anybody a pass after they become an adult. It's the one thing that I just can't tolerate. For real. Silly story. I have a rock that I picked up in federal prison, right? I picked it up on the first day of prison because it just looked really cool to me. And it was one of those, like, the kind of things you can hold in your hand and rub. Thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate that. Size-wise, it was just one of those perfect size rocks. And I'm a fidget guy. And I fell in love with this rock. Stupid as hell, right? But in prison, you have nothing. So I won't lie. They're not going to let you have a rock in your cell, right? They just won't. They're jerks. They're never going to let you have anything like that. So it made it through so many shakedowns, and it's going to sound awful, but I brought this rock from one prison to another in the only place I could because it meant that much to me. And if you don't know what I'm saying, it's disturbing.
They know what you're saying.
Good. But I brought that rock with me everywhere. And I was in Indiana, and they were doing a shakedown. And they cuff you up and you're standing on the railing. So I'm right next to the cell and there's 3 guys in there tearing stuff up and throwing it on the floor. And this particular shakedown was because a cop got stabbed. So they were looking for weapons, but they also had a serious attitude problem, which they got a right to have, right? They just had an officer stabbed. 9 years, but on Suboxone. Don't ever say but ever again. Don't ever say but ever again. You don't get high on Suboxone. I know more about that drug than anybody on planet Earth. It's not getting you high. Don't say but. You got 9 years, right? Don't belittle that. Please don't belittle that. But the cop goes, he picks up the rock and goes, the hell is this? And I said, I've had it about 8 years. I said, it's just my lucky rock. And he goes, you can't have rocks. I said, please, man, like, don't be a dick. And he threw it in the trash. Huge ass trash bag. And I just thought, it's going to sound dumb, but I wanted to cry. I really did.
It's like Wilson.
Oh, man, I wanted to cry. Could not believe this cop threw my rock away, right? I wanted to put my thumbs on his throat. And we were on lockdown for about 5 days, right? Now, cops don't do any work in prison. I'm not being disrespectful, but they don't. They don't cook food. They don't clean clothing. They don't clean the units. So all the stuff that gets thrown onto the floor, even when you're on lockdown, the guys that work in the unit, they're called cadre or whatever, they got a different name for them everywhere. Porters, in-house units, whatever, unit workers. But the unit workers went out to clean and whatever. And when we came off lockdown, and they were pushing that you were only allowed 4 hangers. I don't know why, they're plastic, right? And everybody had 50 because you hung up as much clothes as you could. You could buy as many as you want, but you weren't allowed to have more than 4 in your cell. And there were hundreds of them on the floor. And the guys cleaning up were, when people weren't looking, they'd push 4 or 5 under a cell door, and then they'd keep pushing the stuff to the middle. When we came off lockdown, a black guy walked up to me and said, hey, man, any chance you could bum me a cup of coffee? And I had tons of it, right? I always kept coffee. I kept so much of it because I was afraid we'd be on lockdown, and it was my drug of choice in prison, right? I drank a crap load of coffee. So I had Taster's Choice, I had Keefy, I had all the kinds. So I said to him, yeah, man. I said, you can bum a cup of coffee. I said, and if you need a bag of coffee until store or whatever, I said, but if you just need a cup, I got Taster's Choice and then I got Keefy. What kind of coffee do you want? And he goes, I don't want any coffee. And I go, so you're just effing with me? And in prison, I talked really horrifically, but that's what I said to him. I go, so you're just effing with me? He goes, no. I just wanted to see if you were a racist. And I said, no, I am not. And then he reached into his pocket and took my rock out and handed it to me. And I still have it. He didn't. Oh, there we go. He didn't have to do it. And it's a stupid little story. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. I can't tell you what it meant to me. I really can't. And I used to introduce myself to black people in prison like this. This is a fashion statement. Because in prison, white guys who shave their heads usually do it for a statement. And the statement is usually that they hate anybody that isn't white. Right? And then that didn't work because the groups got bigger. So it meant we just hate black people because the whites ride with the Mexicans. And it's insanity is what it is. But I introduce people by saying this is a fashion statement. I don't do this because I hate anybody, right? I don't. Let me rephrase that. I hate a bunch of people, especially when I was in prison. And I hated a bunch of black people, but I hated them one at a time, right? I hated a bunch of Mexican guys, but I hated them one at a time. I hated them because they were cruel. There's a lot of cruel people in prison. There were a lot of people in prison that liked to hurt people for fun. And I didn't like those people. But it wasn't because of what they looked like. Congratulations, Tommy. You got this. I'm proud to know you. Much love. You know what? Oh, hell, I've been crying all day, right? Why not? When things got ugly a couple of months ago and that video came out that didn't go well, and I don't like bringing it up because it's over. It's in the past. It really is. That was weeks ago. But when that video came up, I reached out to Tony Suter because she was friends with Reese and she was friends with me. And I said, I'm going to make a video. I said, You got any idea the dirt? And it's not, nothing's going to put somebody in prison, but I sure as hell could have made a mean video. Anybody that dates anybody can make a mean video, right? Because somebody one time will say, oh, that pisses me off, or that person really made me mad. And you know what? On YouTube, that's enough to get you, 1,000 people to unsubscribe. And I said to Tony Shooter, wait till you see the video I'm going to make. And in a really beautiful way, she tried to talk me out of it. And my response was, are you trying to talk anybody else out of this? Huh? You trying to talk any of the other people who are trashing me out of doing stuff? Or you're only doing this to me? And I shit all over her. And the really effed up thing is that I thought I was right. Until a couple of days ago. I said to her once in a fit of anger, you better delete everything I've ever sent you. But I didn't delete anything. And I went back and started reading some of the things that I had said. And I have said, if people don't lift you up, get rid of them. And I gave Tony Shooter 5,000 reasons to walk away from me. I said things to her. And the fact that you're here and congratulating me, there's hope for the world. And if you don't know her, she's one of the kindest people that you will ever meet. And she made me some really beautiful art. And as much as I was pissed, I didn't throw out one piece of it. And I threw out so much stuff. I had to throw out some watches. It's just you can't pack everything when you leave, to go to South America. But I didn't throw out anything that she made me. There was a part of me that, and what did I got off track really bad, people. I got off track so bad you have no idea. Thank you to all of you. Honestly, that video, I'm not guilty of the stuff in that video. I'm not. But I'm hideously guilty of an awful lot of other stuff that I have done that I'm ashamed of. And I promise you, I'm going to talk about it even if it bums me out. Because doing the right thing is almost always uncomfortable. Wow, 10 years, congrats. Now 20 more. Love you, brother. Happy for you. People, every once in a while I'll say there's a handful of people that I know personally, like I've met in person. Jim's one of the best people I've ever met. We lived in the same city and we spent a lot of time together. And you know what? I met him because I was in a store and he brought in a watch that was just a very, very nice watch. It was an older watch. And he went up to a guy that we were mutual friends with and he said, I'm trying to find out what this is worth for a friend, right? And the guy said, 100, 100 and a half, something along those lines. And Jim said, all right, and they talked a little bit more. And I don't think my friend, the guy who said that, was being dishonest. I think he was a great watch repairman, but he didn't know a whole hell of a lot about what they were worth. And when Jim walked out, I thought, if this guy sells that for $150, he's getting taxed like it's awful. So I walked out and said, that's not a dishonest guy in there. It really isn't. But that watch is worth a hell of a lot more than $150. Like, you got to take my word on this. And it started a friendship that we've been through a lot together. And he's an amazing human being as well. You will learn more from my chat than you will learn from me. I am a very, very flawed human being. But I have some kind of superpower of bringing amazing human beings together. I used to say, this is a question that has become popular in the last few years, honestly. But people will say, if you have a superpower, what is it? And of course, I would say my superpower is my ability to communicate, right? I'm not arrogant, but I was a public speaker. I can speak. I can communicate things, and I'm pretty good at that. And I would have said that was my superpower, but it's not. I'm a good speaker, but my superpower, for whatever reason, is that the people that have shown up here are unlike people you will find anywhere else. Some of the most beautiful human beings I have ever met. And I'm not worth it. I'm not. But God Almighty, what a great group of people. So if you ever are in one of these chats and you're really listening to me and you're really paying attention, then go back afterwards and read the chat, because you'll learn more from my audience than you'll ever learn from me. Thank you for everything you've done for so many, Tommy. Forgive yourself, because those of us who really matter love you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And you know what? I have forgiven myself. I promise you I have. I promise you I have. The problem becomes that every once in a while someone will say something, and here's the deal. And I keep bringing him up, and I shouldn't, because it's going to get the haters to go after him again. But I learned more from Q than I learned from almost anybody ever, right? Ever. And he said to me once, if you screw up really bad, you need to admit it. And he said, you don't have to admit it to the entire world. You don't. But you have to admit it to at least one person. And I said to him, I admit it to God. And I asked for forgiveness. He said, you admit it to God? I said, yeah. He goes, God already knew. Trust me, God knew what you did. You're not admitting anything to God, right? You can ask him for forgiveness, but he knew what you did. You have to admit it to somebody. And if I treated somebody really poorly, then I'm going to admit it. And I'll admit it to this entire group. There are things in my life I'm never going to admit to people again, because it caused pain to others, right? I shared things that caused others to be hurt. And today in a comment, I said something that I should have said a long time ago, but I only said it to one person, so I'm going to say it now. Because again, I've been crying all day, so what difference does it make if this one gets me? But you guys know who I was accused of conning, right? Like the one name that should never have been put out or whatever, but that I was accused of conning. And I wish I stole from her. I really do. I wish I stole from her. She's an incredibly private person. The internet gives you the ability to have a tribe, right? And to have people who support you without being forced to be really super intimate. When you choose to become a content creator on YouTube, you're going to take the slings and arrows of ungodly amounts of people, even if you're a great person. Michaela never did anything to deserve the hate that she got, right? Nothing. Neither did my friend Lisa. And her name should never have been drawn through the mud. And so many channels brought her up, and so many people said stuff about the two of us. And the other day she wrote in a chat, I'm the person that in a live, she said, I'm the person that people said he conned, and he never took anything from me, didn't steal anything from me. And that's going to open her up to so much hate and so much BS. And you know what? I know it was a difficult thing to write. If I had just ripped her off, she'd have lost some money and it would have been over in a heartbeat. Instead, she became fodder for scumbags. I'm sorry, scumbags who just wanted to use her to hurt me. And they didn't realize that, or they don't give a shit, the collateral damage, right? When you use another human being to try to hurt me, you hurt that person. And I don't care what was said or what anybody thinks about me. But it really bummed me out to what happened to her. She didn't choose to have a YouTube channel, right? Johnny had nothing to do with anything that happened. But you know what? Johnny's got a YouTube channel. He's had one for a long time. Johnny's had more hate than I can imagine because he's been around a whole lot longer. And his community tends to have some people that are pretty ugly, you know? Truthfully. But I really didn't want to do that to my friend Lisa, and that sucks. But it was my fault that it happened. Not because what I was accused of doing was the truth, but because I didn't have the decency to be an honest human being, right? And if I thought that I was a heroin addict for 30 years, right? And what you learn is this: if the answer to the question is going to get you busted for being a heroin addict, you lie. If the answer to the question is going to make people wonder why you're disappearing for 4 hours, you come up with a lie, right? And that's just what you do. And I had never been in a relationship where I had been completely open and honest with anybody about who I was, because I hadn't been sober long enough to have ever done that. And my training had been to just keep lying to people. So when my girlfriend thought that maybe there was more of a relationship there, I just started lying. And I got news for you. Lying is just as evil as the shit that they accused me of. For real, it is. So for those of you, and you're just so much kindness in the last few days of people that said stuff. Hey, Wharton Fissel, good to see you. People that have said, you know what, if you can forgive her, I can forgive her, right? About Reese or whatever. I'm not guilty of what I was accused of, but I'm guilty of a lot of sins of the soul. And if I had been a stand-up and an honest cat, none of that shit would have ever happened. Probably not the greatest 10-year celebration video, huh? Got a little off the rails. Got a bit off the rails. But you know what? Sometimes honesty sucks. You know? Sometimes honesty sucks. And sometimes telling the truth is going to be more difficult, and it's going to cause longer conversations, and it's going to cause more questions and things like that. And you know what? I'm done. And am I giving more ammo to the people that hate me? Yeah, I am. But I'm here for you guys. The problem is, in the last 4 months, all I thought about was the people that hated me. And I turned my back on all of the people that loved me. And that's embarrassing. For real, it's embarrassing. And it's not going to happen again. You have my word. So, wow. Pay attention to my chat, because they're a lot smarter than I am. We have all fallen short, Tommy. You're only human. Somebody way smarter than both of us have said that, huh? For real. Wow. 18 months. Has it been that long? Good God. How does anybody put up with me for a year and a half? Kristen Melinda, thank you. And thank you for always working so hard on the boat. Honestly, I'm not sure that it would have stayed afloat, especially in the last 4 months. So that this cheers up a little bit, right? I'll sound a little different for a while, right? Jim is right. I still blame the U.S. ski program. I took a lot of shots to the head. And the cerebral infarction thing is real. And it definitely has, over time, changed my personality. And that's something that, I have learned recently, truthfully, with friends, that I have to say things like, what you just said hurt my feelings. And we've talked about this on the boat a lot, right? One of two things is happening at all times. The executive function of your brain, right? The part of your brain that is logical and thinks and does all of that, that's engaged, or your emotions are running the ship. It's always one or the other. And one of the reasons that journaling is so fantastic is because you have to get it from here all the way down your arm and onto the paper. And you can't let emotion do that. You have to engage a part of your brain that's going to make the emotional part calm down a little bit more, right? And that's huge. That's a really, really big thing. So I have learned recently, since the last 4 months, I will say to people, you know what? I'm in my feelings. The emotional part of my brain right now is taking over. And Tony Suter could tell you, when the emotional part of my brain is running the ship, I will say things that I will never be able to take back. And I've been forgiven by, I haven't said anything to anybody that I cared about that I haven't begged for forgiveness for. And I'm not saying this because I haven't forgiven myself, because I promise you, right? I promise you that I have forgiven myself. But there's a crap load of gray area that people can't get over, and I understand that. This may be the funniest thing that anyone has ever said. I feel dumb when you and Johnny speak. You guys are so smart. There is a difference between articulate and smart. I promise you. Right? We learned, my dad had the greatest vocabulary in history, and he didn't talk to us like we were kids. Like there was never that goo goo gaga, and I didn't do it with Spanky. My dad started talking to us like we were 25 years old when we were 3. And it did wonders for us. Really. Everybody in my family, we are all amazing communicators. But there's a difference between articulate and smart. I have done the dumbest things in the entire world. I am so smart. I have been to prison 3 times. You think that first one a smart man might have only gone once, right? Even a halfway smart man might have only gone twice. I went 3 times. Journaling is one of the best things I have learned from Tommy in the lifeboat. I'll tell you what, if you've been on the boat, it's the best thing you've learned from me. I promise you. It is so important. It really is. It is so important. I'll take that hug. Thank you. I said something on the lifeboat yesterday that I regret.
Me
too. I said it's so fantastic to see how my audience is treating Reese, because the forgiveness, right? That, by the way, there's a lot less to forgive her for than you know. There are other people involved that made that happen, and I'm never going to say more than that. That's it. I promise you. But you know what? I am going to say something more. It wasn't her idea. That's it. Never going to go past that. But it was not her idea. And you know what? I didn't get that from her. I just reached out to her once I knew what the truth was. The problem with never, ever listening to anything that somebody says about you that's bad is that you also don't get to see a lot of truth. And I know who engineered everything at this point, right? That video, how that was engineered, I know how that went down. Not from her, found out on my own. And by the grace of some of you who reached out and said, I know you don't watch stuff, but you really need to take a look at this. And if you need to block me in order to take a look at this, well, then you go ahead and block me, because that's always been my policy. You send me something that somebody said about me, I don't care what it is, I'm going to block you, right? You know what she is? She is. Now, none of us are perfect. None of us are. And the really sad thing is this. If you don't communicate, and this is with everybody, why is connection, right? The opposite of addiction? Connection, in case you guys ever wonder what the hell I'm talking about, is honestly talking to people, right? Communicating with people and saying, this is what's going on and this is what hurts. If you don't, right? If you don't, and you hold back and you don't communicate and you don't say things, the people that love you say, why is this person not talking to me? Why is this person holding back? And then they start to think, you know what? They're holding back because they got something to hide. And if you give somebody 4 or 5 months of that, it doesn't take a whole lot for somebody to come in and go, let me explain to you what's really going on. And where normally no one would ever listen to that, they begin to. It's, Reese says, Tommy, I still take responsibility for what I did. Can't blame others for my damaging behavior. I agree. I agree. But the truth is the truth. I'm not ever telling the story because it doesn't need to be told. You did what you did. But the inability to let somebody look into your life, right? And when you've had a life that's been a little bit tough, you guard yourself and you make yourself unavailable. And that's a tough thing to do if you're going to marry somebody, right? When you cut yourself off and you make yourself unavailable, they wonder if secrets are happening, right? And it may make them do things that, right? And then if you get just the right person to push in the right direction, or the right two people to push in the right direction, right? Doesn't take much. You're a good person to take responsibility for what you did. For real, you are. But I've come on here for 4 months and said, that video is bullshit. That's been my response. And you know what? There's a lot of responsibility on my part for the bullshit in that video. I ain't telling you that it's true. I'm telling you that if I had been the person that I am supposed to be, if I had been the person I am today, if I had been the person I was on the first 2 or 3 years of the lifeboat, it wouldn't have happened. I'm not a great boyfriend, not a great husband, because opening up to people is a lot easier for me to do here, believe it or not, than it is to do sitting down next to somebody. I have mentioned things on this channel before in small doses. In the last 4 or 5 days, I have really let a lot of it out, right? A lot of it. And it causes pain, a lot of it. Johnny was talking about pruning the other day. The house that we had in Arizona had 6 fruit trees on it, right? The house that we had in Vermont had an orchard, for real. It had like probably 12 apple trees, pear trees, all kinds of cool stuff. And we would hire somebody to come out, a professional, to come out and prune the trees, because if you don't, they don't bear fruit. Literally. If you don't kill a crap load of the tree, it's not going to bear fruit. And as a little kid, I would look at them and go, what are they doing? They're literally killing it. Like the number of limbs that they're cutting off of this would blow you away. Well, I wasn't bearing a whole lot of fruit. And since leaving America, I've been more honest than I've been in a really long time. Because I not only need to cut people out of my life who are bad people, but I need to cut the bad out of myself. And as Q said, you better admit that to somebody. And I can admit it to Johnny. Ain't going to take a whole lot out of me either. For real. Are you kidding me? Johnny and I robbed people. We kicked doors in. I shouldn't say that. He kicked a door. At high noon, I think I've told that story. We've done so much stupid shit together, illegal stuff together, everything. I could tell Johnny anything. That's not admitting something. It's no better than telling God. Johnny's not going to judge me. He's not. And I don't think most of you are either. But holding this stuff in almost killed me. For real. And I don't mean the way that all of the people are going to have fun running with it. I wasn't drinking myself to death. I wasn't eating pills. I wasn't doing any of the things that sound like it would make a hell of a lot of sense. No. Lisa Miller, have a good night. Thank you. I really appreciate you being here. Be safe. That's not what I'm talking about. I was in relapse. I was in stage 4 relapse. I'm making my bed. Even Squirrel Nut Zipper was treating me differently. Because you're either putting out love or you're putting out hate. And my response to what happened, instead of coming out and saying, boy, look, you know what? And trying to explain it and trying to do it in a loving way, I didn't. I went a completely different direction. Right? I led with hate. And it's never what this place was about, ever. I don't blame 90% of you from running. For real. I think I lost way more people. The first album I purchased, Piss on the Wall. No, what was it called? Mom wanted me to take it back because it had that song on it. Jay Giles, Freeze Frame. First album I ever bought. And it's a good way to probably make this a happier conversation. But you know what? I needed to say the things that I just said. They're not a lot of fun. But if I don't get back to the person that I was, then all of those people out there that are saying the stuff about me that they're saying, even if it's not true, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to believe. Vulnerability sucks. I promise you it's not any fun. Yeah, V-bombs. And here's the funny part. I earned the money, right? Mowing lawns. And I gave the money to my mom. I'll never forget it. I think it was like $9, right? And I said, I want you to buy this album for me. It's called Freeze Frame. And my mother looked at the album, and the last song on the album was called Piss on the Wall. And she brought it home and said, I almost did not buy this for you. Your first 45 was centerfold. Well, there you go. That's why I wanted that album, was for that song. But my mother said, if I hear Piss on the Wall played in this house, if I hear the words to that song, I promise you I'm taking that album and I'm throwing it out. So, of course, I never once played that in the house when my mom was there. Peter Wolf rocks. You know what? Honestly, it was a shut up. You bought it at the farmer's market in Hicksville? How was the first album you bought not Billy Joel if you're from Hicksville? Are you kidding? By the way, my mother was a lifeguard in Hicksville, same neighborhood that Billy Joel lived in. Billy Joel went to high school with my uncle. He was a few years older than my high school. A few years older than my uncle. I said, did you ever meet him? He said, no, he was kind of the tough crowd. You know what I mean? He was one of the bad guys. Tommy Bird, I know for a fact you would never run. For real, Tommy's one of those people. I didn't run. I just kind of stayed behind the curtain and only peeked out until everything on stage sorted itself out, which usually eventually does happen. First album was Beach Boys. Oh, you know what? Brian Wilson dying hurt me. I'm not going to lie. Hurt me. His story is so fantastic. Bobby Sherman did just die. He was my sister's first album. He just passed. He was 85, I think, 84, 85. He was also an actor. He had a hell of a career. He really did. He had a hell of a career. Thank you, Noel. Noel says, what a powerful stream. Bless you for sharing from the bottom of your heart, Tommy. Do you know why I'm doing what I'm doing, people? For real? I love giving ammo to the people that hate me. No, you know what I'm doing? Because I want 10 more years. I want 10 more years. And there's not much, you know. I wouldn't put a needle in my arm again for any reason. No reason on this planet. I'm telling you, no matter how bad it gets, ever. I'm going to rephrase that. I am. I'm going to rephrase that. I would catch an addiction tomorrow if it would get Q out of prison. I'd stick a needle in my arm happily tomorrow if I knew it would get him out of prison. There's nothing else that would ever get that to happen. And that's a fact. Nothing. However, that doesn't mean that I can't be a douchebag for the rest of my life and act like a junkie. For real. Ever meet a dry drunk? You ever meet people who live the exact same lifestyle? They just removed the drug? If you haven't, then you've not been in recovery for any length of time. It's sad. It really is. And I've met people and worked with them one-on-one where I've said to them, you know, not for nothing, but if this is the way you're going to go, why don't you just go get shit-faced? I mean, alcoholics are happy for what, 4 or 5 hours a day? I mean, if you're not going to work recovery and you're just going to spend the rest of your life going, I'm not drinking. I mean, for God's sakes, at least the addict's happy occasionally. But for me, I have to be honest, and I have to be honest to a point that's uncomfortable sometimes. And I've been doing that a lot. over the course of the last week. I promise you, I am going to do a really happy stream tomorrow. We're going to have some laughs.
I am too. I'm not going to cry.
Yeah, we're going to try to do two. We're going to change the name of the channel to the Tier Brothers. Lumen, thank you. I really appreciate that. Lumen said, "You're speaking from the heart, Tommy. Thanks for sharing, even though it's painful." I'm doing it because I'm terrified that I might become the person that I've been for the last 4 months again. It's not going to happen. I can't let that happen. You understand? I can't. Tommy, what was the first song you recorded off the radio? Yours was I Love a Rainy Night. The first song I ever recorded off of the radio was Jimmy Buffett, Margaritaville. And I did it on a request. And the funny thing was, I called up and it was Q106 was the name of the radio station. How about that? Take you back?
Yeah.
And we lived in such a small place.
The dust was on that too.
It's such a small, we grew in such a small town that if you called the radio station, the odds that you were going to get the DJ were 100%. You might get 4 phone calls in a day. We grew up in a real small place. So I called Q106 and I said, if you don't play Margaritaville by Jimmy Buffett, right, as one of your next 3 songs, I am never going to listen to your station again. And before playing the song, he played the recording of me saying it. So I had my little recorder thing. And every time I played that for probably 4 or 5 years, it would start with me, my little, whatever I was, 14-year-old voice saying, if you don't play Margaritaville, I'm going to stop listening to this station. And then, boom, Margaritaville would come on. I wanted to learn the lyrics to it. So, but that was the first one that I ever recorded off of a radio station. The DJs talked over the beginning and the end of songs. Oh, that used to piss me off to no end. Absolutely used to drive me insane. And do you remember? I got one for you because I'll leave with this because most of us are of a specific age. I'm going to want you to put a 1 in the chat. If you ever found yourself listening to The Devil Went Down to Georgia, you know the song, right? And we all listen to that song forever. And then one day on the radio, I'm listening to The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And he said, because I told you once, you son of a bitch. And he does not say that. Like they played that for 5 years on the radio where they took, I told you once, you son of a gun. And the first time he heard it he said it on the radio. I was in the car with my brother and in a car that had a bench back seat. And we looked at each other like, holy crap. Did you just hear what he said? And my mom was a real straight-laced woman. I thought to myself, she's never going to put the radio on in this car ever again. As it turns out, she didn't even catch it. But if you remember the first time you heard that on the radio, go ahead and throw 1 up. Because that, to me, that was a shocker. All of a sudden, it was like, he just said SOB. He just said SOB. I couldn't believe it. Now the stuff that they put in music, my God. It's just, it's gotten bad, hasn't it? It really has. It's gotten bad. The first song that I remember freaking out about, like for real, because like I said, I was a Billy Joel fan, and I was a ridiculous Billy Joel fan. It was almost all I listened to. And I listened to some Grateful Dead, some other stuff. But the song that, like, it was a one-hit wonder, but Reese says I wasn't born. See, she's trying to weasel her way back into my life. Right? Is that I wasn't born thing? I got a thing for younger women. I'm not gonna lie to you. You are a few generations younger than I am. Dexy's Midnight Runners. Remember Dexy's Midnight Runners? Come On Eileen. That song, one-hit wonder. Sadly, because of an overdose. Right? They didn't stick around because the lead singer of the band overdosed. But I have a 45. Right? I have a 45. Jim Webster says, I love those covered bridges in your boyhood area. If you ever see the movie Funny Farm, I caused one of those bridges to get destroyed by stealing a road sign. Check out Funny Farm. In the movie. That's right.
Before you know it.
Yeah, exactly.
Qualify that.
What's her name? Ethel? Merrill will be saying, yeah, he killed someone in a bridge too. Wolfman Jack was incredible. You can still listen to old Wolfman Jack shows, by the way. You can still listen to all of those old Wolfman Jack shows. But I have a 45 of Come On Eileen, right? But I have the version of it from Europe. I bought it at a one of those used record shops, right? And I'm just looking through. I'm not looking for anything in particular. And it said, instead of Dexy's Midnight Runners, it said the Dexedrine-fueled Midnight Runners. Now, if you ever had a speed problem, Dexedrine is like 3 rungs up on the ladder in the amphetamines that they give for ADHD. So you got Ritalin. No, Dexy might be second. No, you got Ritalin, you got Adderall, and then you got Dexedrine. The name of that band was the Dexedrine-fueled Midnight Runners. They would not release the album under that name in the United States. So they just called it Dexy's Midnight Runners. But I have one of the 45s. I'm sure if by some chance any of those are worth anything, that would be the one. I like the version in the movie Tommy Boy, Farley and Spade singing in the car. B. Hendrix, I want to tell you something. That movie, my brother called me. I was living in Texas. And my brother said to me, have you seen the movie Tommy Boy? It was out of theaters. And I said, no, I haven't. He goes, go to the movie store right now and rent it. And I said, I'll do it tomorrow. I got stuff going on. He said, no, listen to me. This is one of the funniest movies you're ever going to see in your life. Go get that movie. Go get it right now. Don't you remember you told me you love me, baby? All of that is so damn funny. But so I walked in and I knew the girl in the store really well because I sold her weed. So I walked in and I said to her, hey, do you have Tommy Boy in? And she said, I do. And I said, great, I want it. So she gives me the movie. I take the movie home. I went back the next day and I said to her, my VCR ate that tape. And she goes, you're lying to me, aren't you? I said, I am. I said, but I'm not bringing it back. I said, I'll give you a quarter ounce of weed. And she's like, all right. So to this day, I still have it on VHS. I never brought it back. I watched it 5,000 times. And if you've watched Lifeboat for any length of time, you've heard me make a million Tommy Boy references. The one I use probably the most is, I'm surprised you didn't know that, right? That one I use all the time. That's really one of my favorites. And it's got thin candy shell on it. Surprised you didn't know that. All right, folks, I've gotten to the point where I'm smiling. I grew up with the Midnight Special. Oh, hard to go wrong. Karen Carpenter. You know what? Tell me that just wasn't sad. God help us. Karen Carpenter was great. Tough way to go. Really a tough way to go. And you know what? Again, mental health, right? The ability to say, I'm suffering. It would have saved her life. We had Wolfman Jack at one hot August nights, 1986. He introduced the Righteous Brothers and Jan and Dean. Shut up. Listen, for all of you who don't know what hot August nights is, in Reno, Nevada, every August, they have a party that lasts for about a week. And it may even be longer than that. But hot August nights, they bring in like cars from the 50s and 60s. And there's, every car you see, right? Every parking lot you see. And these are casino parking lots where you can put 5,000, 6,000 cars in a parking lot. There are so many vintage cars. You will see 5,057 Chevys. I'm not joking, right? Everywhere you look, and they are the greatest. It's one of the all-time greatest events if you happen to like old cars anywhere in the world. If you ever want to go check it out, it's worth going to. But the reason I bring it up is if it wasn't for Jim Webster, there wouldn't be a hot August nights. He's probably going to be bummed out that I'm giving him the credit for that. But he was part of the original crew that put hot August nights together. And it is a effing institution. It really is. And the last year that I was
Sturgis.
It is like Sturgis.
Bigger.
But bigger. The last year that I was in Reno before I moved from there to Arizona, Jim said to me, "Do you want to go and do hot August nights?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Sure." I had not understood hot August nights before, right? Because I'm a schlep. I went there with royalty, right? So I got this cool VIP pass that gave me the ability to go wherever I want and do whatever I want. Hot August nights was a little bit different for Jim than it was for for other people. Yep, he was there. Biggest classic car event in the country. See, I wasn't lying. It is the biggest. And I embarrassed myself that night. But you know why? Because I saw a guy hit a dog. And I wasn't drunk. I had had 2 beers. But I said to Jim, you're going to have to take the wheel because I'm jumping out of this car and I'm killing this dude. I said, I'm going to kill this dude. And Jim very kindly explained to me that his affiliation with Hot August Nights, it might not be such a good thing if I got out of the car that he was in and did what that guy really deserves for to have happened to him. I've never been any good at watching somebody hurt an animal or a kid. I promise you. You killed Bambi. Hey, do you remember your brother Dwayne? Every single line in that movie is perfect. It really is. He says, it's so bizarre that you work here. It's the only business left open in the entire town. And the girl works there. It's so bizarre that you work here. Yeah. Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug. This one's for Squirrel. Cat of the Year by Al Stewart. Al Stewart. Great stuff. Reese, I freaking love you, honey. Getting your little care package put together. I love it. Rob, you were there. There's a good one. Great reference. Yep, the dog story. So you do remember that, Jim, and I apologize. I wasn't at my best. I'm still working on it, people. I really am. I would like Yankees. I'm afraid not. I'm a Mets fan. I was born into it. I never had a shot. Saddest team in the world to root for, too. My dad used to call me the second day of baseball season and go, well, we're out of it. The Mets suck. Hey, you know where the weight room is? I'll check it out. Oh, Tommy, don't give him the weight room routine. Great memory. You know what? You too, Jim. You too. Absolutely perfect. Who's your baseball team? Who's your favorite baseball team? The Yankees? I wonder if she goes out with one of the Yankees. That's what he said. I wonder who she goes out with. I wonder if she goes out with one of the Yankees. That's a pretty girl down there. Richard, were you watching Spanktravision? And then they're laying in bed. Boy, hope we can finish this up tomorrow. Yeah. We need a good day. Yeah. Who's your favorite little rascal? Was it Alfalfa or Spanky? Sinner. I'll tell you something. In the time that I was that Reese and I were together as boyfriend and girlfriend, she probably dropped 6,000 Tommy Boy references, but once or twice she dropped the Sinner line and absolutely killed me. Love is the answer. Says Tommy, love to see you happy and relaxed. You apparently didn't catch the first hour of this show. People, I am going to go now because I am happy and relaxed. It's probably a nice time to call it a night. I love you guys. And I promise we're going to have a lot of fun, right? Please don't let me run you off the love boat with what I've done the last couple of days. But these were things that needed to be said. And they're not fun, but they needed to be said. Tommy, once again, congratulations on your 10 years. And like I said to Reese in a chat before that you read aloud, don't second guess your greatness. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so much. Question, I just want to let you know that I have followed your advice you gave me months. Hope to talk to you about it more. I look forward to it. I really do. Thank you, Chica Cherry Cola. This is the last time I'm ever going to say this. I promise. You will not hear me say this ever again. I promise. But I'm sorry for getting away from what made this so great. And I want to thank all of you for forgiving me and for coming back the way that you have. And again, I started to say this yesterday. I started to say this earlier. I said something stupid yesterday, and I want to apologize for it. I complimented my audience on how well how kind they had been to Reese. And then I said, but you would never catch me going back over into her chat. And you know what? That's a shitty thing to say. It really is. It's a shitty thing to say. And the truth of the matter is, there's only a handful of people over there that I know really, really dislike me. It was not a nice thing to say, and it belittled an awful lot of people who are really kind. And for that, I apologize. I love you all. Thank you for celebrating 10 years with me, right? And I hope that I will see you all at year 20 and everything in between. All right? I am Captain Tommy Scoville. This has been The Love Boat. We will see you on the next one. And between now and then, put a little love in your heart. Huh? God bless.